All right, welcome back to the show. Let's talk about annoying driving habits now. And this is your opportunity to get it off your chest. This could be therapeutic for you. So get set to phone me up and talk to me about annoying driving habits. The number one on a lot of people's list, you probably know what it is. It's the slow pokes in the passing lane, right? The people who are in the left lane blocking other vehicles from going around and passing. This is what it's all about. CTV's done some good work on this one. They've been talking to Ian Tootle, co-founder of Sense BC. It's a citizens group that supports speed limits, reflecting the upper end of safe travel speeds on BC's highways. Ian.
Hi, Mike.
It's always great to have you on. Tell me what you think about this.
Well, I think that CTV did an excellent job earlier in the week of succinctly describing what the problem is on some of the roads in BC. And people that occupy the passing lanes on the highways are not only annoying to other drivers, but they're actually a danger on the road. And I think that the BC government, and its sort of focus on speed-related issues over the last 20 years, and has neglected to really pay attention to one of the biggest causes of road rage and interruption in traffic flow that there is on the highways.
Okay, how common is this? I mean, when you're driving around, everybody knows, or they're supposed to know, that you should drive in the right lane unless you want to pass.
Well, they don't. Actually, I had a conversation with somebody in my office just yesterday about this, and it's quite funny. He readily agreed that people that dawdle in the passing lanes are annoying and a problem. And then when we had the discussion about the left-hand lane being used only for passing, he looked at me like I had two heads. It was totally news to him. He didn't realize it. And that's the problem. There are a lot of people that don't realize it, but then there are people that are quite deliberate in their actions.
Okay, well, are there actual specific laws or rules that say how this is supposed to work?
No. In many countries there are. Just south of the border, it's state law. It's the same in Oregon and California as well.
What is the law there?
The law is you have to keep right except to pass. And if you don't, you're liable to get a ticket. And in Oregon, they have impeding traffic laws as well, where if you've got more than 5 vehicles behind you and you're on a road that doesn't offer a passing lane, but you are impeding traffic, you have to use pullouts, or you have to pull over and let people by. We don't have those laws in BC, and the Superintendent of Motor Vehicles has refused to consider it, even though it's been asked in the past by the RCMP that it be enacted. We managed to get Kevin Falcon about 7 or 8 years ago to put in keep right except to pass signs. He replaced the slower traffic keep right signs, which are dotted all over the province, which are really meaningless, and did replace with the more direct keep right except to pass. But the superintendent has refused to consider legislation to back it up, so therefore it's not a focus.
Okay, so there are signs out there that say keep right except to pass.
Yeah, actually.
But it's not enforceable. So if a cop sees you dawdling along in the left lane, can't they pull you over and write you a ticket?
They can, but according to St. Alexander's piece on CTV earlier in the week, over the last 5 years, they've issued 31 tickets for impeding traffic in BC. And when you consider that 200,000 to 400,000 tickets a year are issued for traffic infractions, you can see where their focus isn't.
Okay, so we may not have a specific law that says keep right to pass, but we do have a law called impeding traffic.
We do, but it's got no teeth in it because, there are 2 sections in the Motor Vehicle Act that may apply, but the problem is that they both have caveats in them that state that, if you're only going that speed to comply with the law, then it's okay, it's acceptable. So the problem is if a driver is charged with impeding traffic and the driver goes to court and it's brought out in court that he couldn't legally go any faster in the lane that he was in, then it's turfed out. So the police have basically given up on ticketing people under that section. Okay,
that's very interesting, Ian. Now, you mentioned that this is not only a frustration for drivers, but you also said it's dangerous, right? How is it dangerous?
Well, it's dangerous because every time, first of all, you and I have talked about this in the past with respect to the flow of traffic. All unobstructed roads and highways have a flow in traffic. Traffic generally flows at a certain speed, and when a driver, a vehicle interrupts that flow, there's an interaction that happens as a result of it. So if somebody, for instance, is sitting in the left-hand lane on the highway, rather than being able to drive and continue on that lane, a driver that's going slightly faster or faster than that vehicle may have to change lanes. And in doing so, that driver is interacting probably with, for sure is interacting with the motor vehicle. It has to change lanes to avoid, but it's possibly interacting with other vehicles in the right-hand lane as well. So there's a minimum of 2 interactions, possibly 4, every time there's a lane change made. And, we know that speed, the issue with speed in BC has been argued forever, especially by us. It's highly debatable whether or not speed is the cause of crashes that the authorities in BC would like you to believe it is, but we all agree that speed variance is a problem. So when you have difference in travel speeds between vehicles, that's when the problems occur. So, this gets into a whole other conversation about speed limits, which we could talk about for hours as well. But, does that answer the question?
Yeah, sure it does. Let me ask you this, though. I mean, if the government did what you want, Ian, and they brought in a keep right to pass law, would it make any difference? I mean, how is this? Are these laws enforced south of the border in, say, California and Oregon? Is those the examples you mentioned?
Actually, they are. And when we've been on this bandwagon now for a number of years, and when we first started asking for the signage to be changed and the legislation to be changed, we were told by at least one senior member of the RCMP in BC that they had to order a ticketing blitz if we managed to get the legislation. So they recognize the issue. They've asked for the legislation before, and it is something that's dealt with elsewhere. If you go to Germany and you pass on the right, you can get a ticket for that. It's illegal. They take their driving there a lot more seriously than we do. Passing on the right is not a safe thing to do. People expect that you're going to pass them on the left, and when you come out of nowhere on the right-hand side, sometimes it can cause a problem.
Okay, Ian, we did a story on the show here yesterday about a cycling group in Vancouver. Switching gears on you here a little bit, said that what they would want to do is change the law to allow bicyclists to do a rolling stop at a stop sign. So they say that, hey, if you're on a bike, you should not have to come to a complete stop at a stop sign. If you can safely travel through that stop sign, keep pedaling, that you should be allowed to do that as a cyclist. So in other words, the stop sign for a cyclist would be more like a yield sign. Now, I know you're a driver, you're an advocate for drivers, but I know you ride a bike too.
I do.
What do you think?
Well, I'm thankful that Jessica warned me before I came on here that you were going to ask me this question, or you might ask me this question, because I don't really have an answer for you on it, Mike. I mean, I ride a bicycle, like you said, and I generally stop at stop signs, but sometimes I do roll through them. I never blow right through them like some people do. I guess the concern from some people is that if you give an inch, they take a mile.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not on my radar, really.
Okay, here's what we're going to do, Ian. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. Let's get the phone lines going. Now, phone me up and tell me what you think about this. Keep right to pass. Do you think we need a tough law in British Columbia and back it up with teeth to bring the hammer down on drivers who sit in the left lane? How about people who go around and pass on the right? Should that be against the law, and should that be a penalty in British Columbia too? Right now, as Ian pointed out, there is a law called impeding traffic in British Columbia, but it appears it's not enforced very much. Do you think we need this type of law and this type of enforcement in BC? What else drives you nuts about annoying driving habits? Get it off your chest. Phone me, 604-280-9898, toll free, 1-877-399-9898, star 9898 on your cell. Your call's Ian Tootle next. All right, taking your calls to Ian Tootle from Sense BC, 604-280-9898. Let's go to Pat in Vancouver. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Michael. I've got just a quick comment and a question. The comment is that if when you're driving down the road and you see a sign that has a big number on it, and you look down on the dial on your dashboard and there's other numbers that correspond, just match up the numbers, and then there's no problem. My question is, why does your guest insist that he should be able to break the law? What makes him think that we should add to the death toll on our highways by increasing the speed limit? Because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, Steve. Okay, Ian.
No, actually, he's wrong. We're not talking about just people that are going over the posted speed limit. We're talking about people that are sometimes doing at or below the posted speed limit in the left-hand lane, in the passing lane. So when they're doing that, as long as they're within the speed limit, they're not chargeable. And the other thing I'd like to mention here is this is not just about the two interactions or four interactions that I talked about before, but there's a huge bulge of traffic that piles up behind these slowpokes in the left-hand lane. So it's a chain reaction among a number of drivers because of one selfish individual. And, with respect to the comment about speed limits, it is another issue entirely. The caller's made an inference about speed causing crashes. We can argue that on another show. But the issue about, people not obeying speed limits, 70% of highway drivers in British Columbia on some highways don't obey the speed limit. So who's the ass? Is it the law, or is it the people driving safely at a travel speed that they've determined to be with the flow of traffic?
The speed limits are too low.
In some cases,
is your bottom line argument.
Yeah. And it's not just my opinion; it's opinion of experts.
Let's go to John in Burnaby. Hey, John.
Well, he's right. The speed limits are too low. At least they are for good drivers. I was just going to say that it should be pretty obvious and common sense that if you see somebody coming up behind you that's going 100 kilometers an hour and you're doing 70, you should just move out of the way. But in BC, people don't. They just like to sit in front of you and just piss you off. The other thing is, maybe we should educate drivers when they first get their license about simple things like the difference between yield and merge signs, which people just don't seem to understand around here either. If they would just educate people on the important things about driving and keeping flow and not staring at an accident and causing traffic jams for miles because you want to look at something that's happened at the side of the road. Things like this, I support that.
Okay, John, thanks for the call. I guess the point on the speed limit, Ian, okay, let's say, this relates to the first call too. Let's say you're in the left lane and you're driving the speed limit. Are you breaking that impeding traffic law?
No, you're not. But if you have a keep right except to pass law, you should probably be to the right. I mean, why are you in the left-hand lane if you're not there to overtake another vehicle?
Right. Let's go to...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, David in West Van. Hey, David.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I think your person you have as a guest is well informed, and I completely agree with what he's saying. I was a policeman for many years and used to be involved in traffic many years ago. This whole business of people impeding traffic, the sign should say, keep right except to pass, and don't try to be the policeman out there sitting in the left lane impeding traffic. I think a lot of people, like those when your first guests on, said, why should I move over to let someone else speed? That's not your job. Keep in the right lane. If the person who's going over the speed limit, don't worry about it. Let him drive his car or her car. Secondly, I've driven in France and I've driven in Germany, and the nature of the driving over there is you keep right except to pass. You put your life on the line if you go in the left lane, and it's so much easier to drive when people follow the rules and know the rules. Anyways, keep up the good work. And I think personally the signage change from keep right, pass, low traffic, keep right. I think that was a deliberate act on part of the government to impede traffic with the idea they're going to slow down. And speed in itself doesn't kill people. It's driving too fast for given road conditions, whether it's traffic, wet, snow, whatever it is. People should drive to the conditions regardless of what the posted speed limit is.
Oh, okay, David, thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Don in West Van. Hey, Don.
Yeah, that previous caller was bang on. Probably said everything I was going to say. But I'd add one more item, and that's the HOV lane. These guys that get in the HOV lane and they dawdle along impeding the traffic flow there, it just drive you crazy. And the other thing that drives me crazy is your road reports where you're pre-warning violators in the HOV lane that there's an HOV check. Why in the world do you do that? Nothing, pisses a guy off more than anything than see these people who think they're entitled to ride in that lane when they know damn well they're not. Doesn't bother me for some guy to pass me speeding. That's going to be another issue. But this HOV enforcement, I think, is something that should be pursued vigorously.
Okay, Don, thanks for the call. Let's go squeeze in some more. Lots of people want to have their say. Let's go to Greg. Hey, Greg.
Well, hi there, gentlemen. Everybody's pretty much said everything. General Chuck Yeager, the guy that first man to break the sound barrier, I think said it all. Speed doesn't kill you. It's sudden deceleration that'll get you every time. It's not speeding, it's bad driving. We don't teach people how to drive, and the signage that the Ministry of Highways puts up is absolutely ridiculous. Telling you that there's an exit for where you want to turn off at the exit, not a mile before, not leading you up. And there also should be signs that say, here's the exit, this lane is through traffic. They use it everywhere else in the world, through traffic. If you're in the left lane, that's the lane to boogie in. If your turn is coming up, get over in the right lane.
Okay, Greg, thanks. I told you this would be therapeutic for people, Ian. I'm telling you, man. This is like I should be charging for therapy here. Let's go to Peter on the open line. Hey, Peter.
Hi.
Hi.
I think the speeding issue is obviously the problem, and if people would just maybe want to act like dignified adults and drive the speed limit, there wouldn't be these problems, because when I'm on the highway and I'm in the left lane and there's a car in the right lane and a speeder comes up behind me, I stay there. I play cop for sure, because if everybody was listening to the RCMP this last year, they've got half the money for traffic stuff. So if we don't start taking responsibility in our own hands, nobody will.
Okay, whoa. Let me make sure I got this straight. You see a speeder coming up behind you.
Yeah.
What do you do again? What's your strategy?
If there's a car on the right, or if there's vehicles on the right, and I'm doing a speed limit, I stay where I am, because I'm within the bounds of the law.
You mean you stay in the left lane?
And I'm driving the ultimate maximum speed limit.
In the left lane.
I will not speed because somebody's behind me, and I will not alter my situation.
So you stay in the passing lane and don't move.
That's right, because I'm not going to...
Okay, you're the guy who drives everybody nuts.
I'm doing the speed limit, man. I'm not going to let somebody...
You're the guy who's driving everybody crazy.
Yeah, how's your road rage? Why can't you drive the speed limit?
Ian, what do you say to this guy?
Well, I wrote about him in our blog. It's on the Sense BC blog this morning, so you can read up on himself there. There's two types of drivers on the road. There are those that don't know any better, and there are those that know better, and their actions are quite deliberate. And he's
I've had a valid driver's license for 30 years, never had a speeding ticket, never had a crash. Food for thought, hey? And people on Galliano do 50, 60 miles an hour in a 50-kilometer-hour zone. They pass on solid lines all the time. 90% of public, to me, speeds with impunity, and they look like 16-year-old children that just got their license. And if they're not allowed to speed, they're going to get angry at you and tell you to get out of their way.
Okay, thank you for calling in. Move over next time, will you?